Flipping it up and out. Bogues! A recent block by Bogut.
Good recovery by Andrew Bogut.
Let's get rogue.
Welcome to Rogue Bogues. This is the basketball series. We've got a good one today, a longer one. So sit back and relax. We're going to do our Eastern Conference previews with Mr. Mike Procopio. How goes it?
Bogues, how you doing, brother?
Very good, very good. Sydney Kings are 3-0. Life's good right now. So big win against Melbourne United yesterday, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But when you're winning, everything's good.
Yeah, well said. Shit, well said.
Yeah, like I said, we're going to get into our Eastern Conference previews from both of us later on in the show. We're just going to go through a few news items. It would be remiss for us not to touch on Draymond Green, Pro, and the week or few weeks that has been. For those who have been living in a bubble, there was obviously news broke about 10 days ago now that Draymond Green and Poole, Jordan Poole got into a scuffle. No one really knew the extent of it. The Warriors had put out a statement saying that they're going to discipline Draymond Green internally. No one thought anything of it more than that. Within a day of that, with what I assume is Draymond or Draymond's people or camp put out a statement saying that Jordan Poole's his behavior's been noticeably different since the offseason, alluding to him maybe acting out or being a bit more cocky or arrogant or something like that. That was a statement that was obviously through Clutch, in my opinion, that was given to a few journalists who are pretty Clutch friendly, if you put two and two together. So that was interesting in itself. After that came out, Andre Iguodala jumped on social media and heavily defended Jordan Poole and just said, I'm not going to let anyone do that to my young fella. That's not right. It's a complete lie. It's not true. And this is from a source in the camp, me. So as I said, the punishment was internal. Now, a couple of days ago, the actual footage of the punch has been leaked. It is not good. It is, some people call it a cheap shot. Some people call it a sucker punch. It wasn't a back turn sucker punch. I think there was, I don't think Jordan Poole was ready for it, obviously. He didn't have his hands up, wasn't ready to go. For anyone who's seen the video, there was a push and shove and Draymond basically dropped him, got him right on the chin, knees buckled, went down. Now there's a lot of people asking, why is this just an internal punishment? Draymond Green's been given an extended leave from the team. He's put out a pretty long apology. I actually respect him. One thing I respect about it is he did a press conference. He didn't hide from it. He went to the press conference and basically answered questions and gave his statement on what happened. He has alluded to some personal issues as to why he's been acted out. I don't think that's a valid excuse. I think we all have personal issues, but you can only take his word for what's going on. Pro, do you think the punishment's going to change? Do you think anything's going to change? Do you think the video changes much? There's a lot to unpack here. I think the handling of the Warriors, one, is probably what has pissed off the Warriors about the tape getting out more than anything, because it was a very, very soft punishment considering what he did. There were claims that not many people saw the punch that were even in the gym, because if you look at the tape, there's a lot of guys that are just like, seen this before, let's just get on with practice, back's kind of turned, and then some players claimed off record they didn't see the punch until they saw it on video on TMZ. Where do you think this goes? I mean, their first game is 17, 18th ballpark against the Lakers opening night. Do you think he plays in that one? Do you think he plays in that one?
It's hard to say, Bogues, really. I would say probably not if I had to guess, but they're going to handle that internally and how they handle it. It brings you back to obviously the Bobby Portis punch with Mirotic with Chicago, where he got 8 games. Chicago was the one who administered the suspension. And, I mean, the league stayed out of it. I think it's the same type of deal, except the Chicago didn't have a tape that leaked and you didn't see it. I don't think the league should get involved. It's not really – he didn't do it at a game. He didn't do it at an open practice. He didn't do it at a signing. He did it in practice, and it sucks. It's a black eye for the league. It's a black eye for that team to just sort of see that. But hey, look, I mean, you know how it is, Bogues. Look, this stuff doesn't happen as much as it did in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, but people do get into it. And look, like the NBA isn't 2K, right? They don't just like practice, work out, game. They're like robots and they just perform. You get 15 guys that basically are self-centered around themselves. They've got shit going on at home. They've got shit going on with contracts. They've got shit going on in their own life. And sometimes they just bring it with them. It's not an excuse. It was fucking moronic of what he did. He should have definitely probably handled that a different way. But, you know, I don't have all the information. I don't live with the guy. I'm not a part of that team. So I don't know, you know, if anything was brewing or not. I don't believe a fucking word any NBA player says, by the way, about this isn't it, this is what happened, this isn't it, because they're all going to protect whoever they want to protect. And they'll lie through their teeth about like, that's my guy, or this didn't happen, or this. I just don't believe. Unless you're there, it's hard to really get 100% of the information. I think they'll handle it some way. I think it's going to blow over. I think that it's just, hey, look, it happened, punched him. It's not a pretty deal. It's not something you want to say, well, we have all this culture going and the guy gets punched. Fuck that culture. Sometimes that shit goes out the window. The guy just fucking overreacts. You know, he got pushed. He overreacted to the push, in my opinion. But what are you going to do? Plus, you had a bunch of players just fucking standing there as the guy just fucking gets knocked out. Again, not there, don't know, but like, it's just a weird deal. And, you know, what are you going to do? That the thing got leaked. And that's another that's another phase of the story you and I should talk about, you know, about the leak and what are people saying and what are your thoughts on that? But what do you think, Bogues, like, you know, with the whole punch and fight and all that
I don't
stuff?
think it blows over that quickly. I think whenever you get dropped to your knees by a teammate, there's kind of that embarrassment that goes along with that, unfortunately. I think that, look, I played 15 years. I saw 2 punches thrown in my career pro. So I know you talked about, we kind of went back and forth in the chat about it, about how like this happens from time to time. I disagreed. The last 20 years, it's changed. It's usually a push and shove. And usually you can tell when guys are about to square up. And by the time that happens, what happens? Everyone's in there running in, grabbing arms and breaks them up, right? I guess that's why probably guys didn't run in when the pushes started, because they've seen this 10 times before with Draymond and someone else, or someone else and someone else, right? So they're just like, oh, here we go again, push and shove, shit talking. Let's get on with it. They're going to be mad at each other for a few days and then it's going to blow over. But like I said, I've seen 2 punches thrown at practice. Both of them missed, unfortunately enough for the people involved, in 15 years. Otherwise, it was always just a push and shove, you know, I'm going to mess you up, and it never eventuates, right? So I don't know. I think Jordan Poole's the one to ask. I mean, can you forgive and get over that? I don't know, especially coming from Draymond, who is the leader of that team, who obviously is an integral part of kind of their physicality and toughness, but also as far as a vocal leader, like he preaches a lot to the young guys. This is what you need to do to be professional, all that kind of stuff. Do they look at him differently now? On the flip side, his punishment, which from what I understand might be an internal fine and that's about it. And obviously missing some days of practice. Young fellas might look at this and say, oh, so that's it? Like Kuminga or Wiseman, like I can just punch a teammate, you know? So there is a slope there that's very, very slippery. Going on to the TMZ 10K thing. First of all, it's pretty funny, Pro, because I played in a poker tournament a couple of weeks ago, and I sat. I don't know any of the people there because there was about 700 entrants, and a pretty big tournament. And I sat with this guy on my table, and he's like, I was in Vegas after you guys won the championship, when you guys were partying. And I was like, okay, cool, fair enough. And he goes on to say that I was the guy that took the photo of Klay Thompson, like kind of half passed out in that little pool with a couple of girls around him, and I was the one that sent it to TMZ. So I was just intrigued. I was like, oh, what really? I mean, I don't really think that's a cool thing to do, and I told him that. But I said, how does that all work? Like, how much do they pay you for it? He goes, man, it was like the quickest, easiest process of my life. I basically just emailed him and said, hey, I've got a photo of Klay that you guys might be interested in. And they said, all right. And I think he got $900 for it, or $800 for it. And they said, as soon as you send the email and we confirm that you have the photo, the money will be in your account. And literally he said within an hour he had the money, which is crazy. So that ties into this. I think, first of all, whoever leaked it and only got 10K is an idiot. I mean, I don't know if I believe that TMZ said they paid 10K for it. So I don't know if TMZ is lying, or the guy or whoever leaked it is an idiot, because you should have got much more money for that. Like, if you're risking your job like to leak a tape, you better be getting more than 10K. Like, I thought it'd be 50, 100K ballpark. I thought, because that's a pretty shady video to get access to internally. And then the second thing is, the Warriors, I felt like the Warriors were more pissed off about the fact someone leaked it than the punch itself. People can argue whether that's right or wrong. And I think the way that the statement came out, they're more mad about that. But everything gets leaked in the NBA Pro. The fact that this got leaked, the difference is, from what I understand, there's only a handful of people that have full access to practice, the whole practice feed, like basically the whole feed, right? And there's usually a few video interns, a video coach, and then obviously the assistant coaches. So the question then remains, who is it? Are they going to find out who it is? I think that's bad. I think I was strongly against leaks for everything in the NBA. I'm big on keeping everything internal. I would never leak shit to the media, whether it was that scuffle. If I would have got asked at that press conference about the scuffle before the video came out, I just would have said, it's none of your business. We're keeping that internal, right? But that has probably changed the last 15 years, probably 10 years, I'd say. It's really changed with social media and Woj bombs and shams and agents leaking shit. It's really changed now. Like, I remember sitting in the where were we with the Golden State Warriors, sitting in a meeting room. Do you remember when Jordan Bell signed his incidentals to, who was it, Mike Brown? Remember that? I think we spoke about it. So he did it as a joke. He went to, well, not half joke. He went into the gift shop and bought a bunch of scented candles and some other shit, some chocolate and whatever, and he signed his name, right, Mike Brown, right. Little did he know that Mike Brown's kind of frugal, right? So when he went to check out, they're like, "Here's your bill, sir, for the items you bought from the gift store." He's like, "I didn't buy no items from the gift store." They're like, "Yes, you did. This is your name." He's like, "First of all, that's not my signature. Second of all, I don't buy scented candles and candy. Like, it's not." So he was that adamant. He's like, "I want to see the CCTV footage of who was in there at that time." Anyway, it ended up being Jordan Bell. So we have a team. This is all in house at the moment, right? We have an internal meeting. So it's basically everyone was on that road trip, the team. I think there was a few executives in there and coaches. And while we're going through, so Jordan, I don't think he was in the room at the time. We told him to stay in his room, and we're discussing the penalty amongst the veterans and the coaches, right? They were discussing, what do we think is, fair for do we suspend him a game, whatever, because they also didn't know how long he was doing it for. Like, he could have been doing that for every road trip till then. They didn't know. He denied it, but you just never know, right? While we're in the meeting, it all came out already. While we're in that meeting, and we're just, everyone, like, so literally 10 minutes into that meeting, I remember Johnny West puts his hand up and goes, "Oh, yeah, the media's already got it. They've already got it." And we're just like, "What the hell?" And that's an example of how quickly shit gets leaked. But this one hurts a little more because it's in a practice facility, in your own practice facility with generally your own staff. I mean, Pro, how would you handle that if you were the video coordinator or the head of player development?
Oh, I would fire him. I would fire him. There's no look. Like, I don't like leaking. Period. I told you my whole deal with leaking. If you're gonna leak something, intel that you heard about what another team's going to do or what happened with another team, to trade information. I've traded information a million times about, like, what I've heard internally about what other teams are doing to get information that's going to help the team. But when you're leaking, actual footage of your practice, that's punishable by death, to me. As far as your career, there's no mistake with that. Trust is a huge thing with any staff or any team or any player. If you're going to leak stuff like that, you got to go. And I would probably actively look to fuck that guy or girl trying to get a job further on in their career, because that's some like really two-faced shit right there. And I'm a big fan of loyalty with stuff like that, and it's different. Like, and I'll be against if you talked about it, but if you talked about it to somebody, like, hey, there was a punch thrown in practice today, and you leaked it to like Shams or Woj or something, still not great, but it's a lot different than getting like Mission Impossible, Jack Bauer shit, where you're getting the like USB with footage of, you're getting a hard drive with like footage of practice. It's pretty low and pretty bad, to be honest with you. I don't really tolerate that much, that much with that stuff, to be honest.
Yeah, it's especially to that extent where you're actually giving. It's one thing to say, to leak off the record, there was a punch thrown, blah blah blah, but to actually cut the film out and actually send it off, they'll find out who it is eventually. I mean, I'm pretty certain of that, and it's unfortunately going to be probably a low-level employee, in my opinion, who try to make a quick buck. But like I said, if you're going to make a quick buck, if you're going to do something, you better make some cash out of it. 10K, yeah.
It's probably Bogues. It's probably like, TMZ does this 1,000 times a fucking day. So they probably lowballed him and then didn't expect it to be like, they probably expected to say, fuck you, 10 grand. I'm getting 50 or I'm walking. And the guy, it was like the Seinfeld episode. I don't know if you watched Seinfeld, when Kramer had like Starbucks, could have got millions, and they offered him like free coffee for a year, and he took it. Like it was like that. There was a story, Bogues, like 10 years ago. The Chicago Bulls. I don't know if I've shared this story on the air or not. Chicago. I got this from someone else. Chicago Bulls. Every team gets like the pre-draft measurements and stuff, and like somebody was leaking it to a draft site, and like all the official measurements, like right after it came out. Well, the employee of the Bulls was like, "Oh, well, I leaked it, no big deal." Well, the fucking NBA showed up like a day later looking at computers, and they were like, what the fuck? So apparently like the NBA like gives you the list, but every team, they give you a fraction of a number off, 0.03 or 0.005, something you wouldn't even notice on one of the measurements. And for 30 teams, they do that with 30 different players' measurements. So they know like that number exactly is different from any other team. And they're like, okay, boom. They find the Chicago Bulls like 50 grand. The scout actually paid it out of his own money, either 25 or 50,000. But, they find out. I mean, they'll find out eventually. They'll track it or whatever. Or somebody from fucking TMZ will leak it. Like somebody's going to get it, There's nobody holds the line anymore, Bogues, with like withholding information. Someone's gonna get it, and it's like if you're gonna do that, do it for 100. Like, don't do it for 10 grand. Come on, man. Like, it's fucking pretty stupid.
Yeah, totally agree. We'll see what happens with that. But pretty big story to see, especially considering they just won a championship and they're trying to defend. So a lot of distraction there in Golden State. And
a lot of people are saying they're going to get rid of Draymond for it too, and it's fucking stupid. Like, first of all, Draymond doesn't have a lot of trade value as far as like, what are you going to get for Draymond? Like, he's up there in age a little bit, not too much, but a little bit. He's getting a lot of money, and I think he's got 1 year left, player option or whatever. And like, it's not like they're going to give you the farm for him. They need him because he's that like Dennis Rodman on steroids type player. Like, he's the enforcer, the talker, the leader, the tough guy, the rebounder, does all that. And what are you going to trade him for? You're going to trade him for Russell Westbrook? You're going to trade him for, you're not going to get this great player back. They need him, and he needs them because, to be honest, Bogues, he doesn't fit in with a lot of other teams where, in my opinion, has the same type of value to them in winning. Like, if you put him on Orlando or Charlotte and said, "Hey, you're going to be our main guy. We're going to go through you," he's not going to have much of an impact. He could put up numbers, but it's not going to have much impact. You put him with that team, and there's not a lot of other guys like him in the league. Like, he's the old school Anthony Mason. Like he's a point forward that could pass. He could pass, he could dribble. He rebounds, set screens, all that stuff, and he's smart as hell. Like he fits, and they need him, and he needs them. I don't know how much further he'll be with them after this year or the year after, what have you. But I think, like I said, you're right. It's not going to blow over overnight, but I think it will blow over in time. And I think they just have to come together and say, you know what, it's a fucked up thing that happened. We gotta slowly get back on the same page and go with this thing.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I mean, they're still up there as one of the favorites in the West, so it will be interesting. Real quick, Victor Wembanyama hype. Hope I got that right. I mean, they had the showcase there in the last couple of weeks. 7'4", guard handles, 3-ball, plays at a good tempo, plays at his own pace, can get it off anywhere. What are your thoughts?
I watched him play game one, and I mean he's got a lot of tools, Bogues. I mean he is one of the best high school age players that I've ever seen. I wouldn't say he was more impressive than, I don't think he was as impressive as LeBron or Kobe when I watched Kobe in high school. Now he's more skilled than those guys, because he's 7'4" and he can shoot and he can move. But like he does have some things that you like, holy shit, this kid's for real. I mean, there's going to be more tanking that goes on this year. I mean, you might get Golden State and Milwaukee shut it down for this fucking kid. I mean, he is by far the best player in the draft. And, he is I wouldn't want to say generational talent, but he's definitely a game changer. He could definitely impact your franchise from years to come. And, he's really fucking good. So, he can block shots, but not great defensively yet. He's only 18 though. But like the shooting stroke, the ability to put the ball on the floor, go by you, isolate, post up, transition, run the floor, all that. And he's not like Chet Holmgren body where like he's slouched over and he's going to have like physical problems. Now, knock on wood, I hope he doesn't, but he doesn't. He looks like a fluid athlete, and his body's sort of he's freakish, but like he's not like, oh wow, he's going to have physical issues. He seems pretty well put together, to be honest. So
yeah, that was going to be my question. How do you think his body holds up? He's only 18, so remember what Giannis looked like when he came in the league at 19, 20. So they'll definitely get him in the weight room, get him a bit stronger in his core and his hips. But I think he's just going to be one of those guys that just doesn't. He's not going to ever be a big, strong guy, right? He's so it's just going to be a matter of figuring that out. And KD figured that out real quick, that he's so long, can get his shot off against anyone, that you don't really need a wrestle, because you can get it off anywhere on the floor. And I think this is going to be a similar case with him. But did you see Adam Silver issued a tanking warning, pro?
I did. I saw him push the NBA app like 9 times in 30 seconds, and then the tanking warning. I guess something's big going on with this NBA app. I would assume it's probably going to be some partnership with gambling or something like that. But no, I did hear about the tanking deal for sure.
Yeah, pretty interesting. I mean, how serious do you think teams are going to take that one?
As serious as like you telling me that I can't have sweets after this podcast.
Exactly. It's they're trying to keep it honest, but it looks like the Spurs are in first gear to get to that tank, because we'll get to them next week. Their roster is not great at all, and it's clear as day. They're going for their next Tim Duncan, essentially. Joel Embiid, pro. It's just a quick one. We don't have to get into this too much, but he now has a choice to play for Team USA or Team France. It was France initially. I think there's a rule change needed for this, pro. I mean, I understand people that have were born and raised in a country, going to another country and then having the option. I get that. But oh man, it's just, I don't like the national team should not be a recruiting process, period, in my opinion. It's not a pro team, right? There is some small examples that I think are warranted. But it seems these days you got guys that can pick out of 2 or 3 countries, and I just don't think it's right. I think you should play for, first off, the country you're born in should be the number one priority. And then if you want to, like, for instance, Kyrie Irving was born in Australia. He was only here as a baby for 6 months, a year max. Okay, fair enough. He should play for Team USA. He's basically raised in the US. I get that totally. But if if your childhood or up to there should be a cutoff, like up to a certain point. They need to figure that out. But as far as it being a recruiting drive for the national team, I think FIBA gets a lot right. I think this is one they have wrong, and it's a dangerous precedent because you're just going to have, there is national teams out there that pay guys to get nationalized, right? Let's not lie about it. So for people listening out there, yeah, there's plenty of especially American imports. Let's say they go over and play in, Russia or wherever it is. They'll knock on their door and say, "Hey, we'd love you've been in our league for 4 years. We can get you citizenship, and we'll give you another, $500 $1 million a year to play for our national team." Of course, they're going to do it, right? So that's where it gets dangerous. Whereas I think FIBA's still playing for your national team's kind of the purest kind of form of basketball left because it's not high money and marketing and this and that, similar to college. So I hope they tweak it a little bit, but what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I agree. I think there should be a cutoff like 10 years old or 8 years old, like wherever you're born. And if you move to another country before the age of, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever it is going to be, like something like that, I wouldn't mind, or whatever that number is going to be. But I don't like the third option. For like Russian teams and some others like European, they give that player that's playing overseas Bosman citizenship. Now they don't count as an American to play with a team or what have you. It's worth a lot to the American or the other player. Sort of like Serge Ibaka playing for Spain. I don't know his childhood or if he moved to Spain at an early age or whatnot, but I do agree with you. I think there needs to be a rule, cut it down, say, look, this is it. It's either your birth country or if you move to another country by a certain age, that's it. But that very small cases with that rule, I'm with you. I'm against it.
Yep, makes two of us. I think it's just a no-brainer. You just don't want guys starting to get recruited to play for the national team. It's just it'll get very, very messy, and essentially you'll have like the Arab Emirates will have the best players in the world in 20 years. Just all that oil money. Like we'll just buy you all, come play for us, and the Dubai Hurricanes are gonna be the best in the world. But that is a city. But all right, let's get into our East preview, Pro. It's deep. The East is deep this season. Even getting the top four wasn't as easy as I thought. So we'll go through let's just go through our top 15 each, and then we'll go through team by team. What do you have? Give me your top four first.
All right. So top four, Bogues, is going to be Milwaukee, Boston, Philly, Miami.
In that order?
That's my four. In that order. That's my order. What do you have, Bogues?
I got Philly. I got Philly number one. I'll talk about that why later. I got Brooklyn 2, Milwaukee 3, and Boston 4. So we're similar, but I've got Miami, and then I'll go on with mine. I've got Miami in 5, so just out. I've got Cleveland in 6, Toronto in 7, Atlanta in 8, Chicago in 9, and I've got New York in 10. I think that 10 spot is kind of open. I have Washington as the first out, Charlotte, Detroit, Orlando, and Indiana dead last. What do you got?
I've got a past the 4. I've got Brooklyn 5, Cleveland 6, Atlanta 7, Toronto 8, Chicago 9, Washington 10, New York 11, Detroit 12, Indiana 13, Charlotte 14, and Orlando 15.
Wait, where was Cleveland?
Cleveland was 6.
6, okay.
Yeah. Now maybe the Indiana thing, because they're going to tank, for sure. They're probably going to move, both those guys, and they'll find somewhere, and then they'll just tank it out. And Orlando fights, and they got young talent, but they've got some injury issues too. So yeah, we'll see. And I think Charlotte without Bridges, and they're just their talent minus Bridges, and I just don't think they're good enough to really make a run. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I won't get too far into the bottom 5 because of the bottom 5, but I think I'm the same. I think Indiana's a very unbalanced roster. They're not deep, and they got Rick Carlisle, who's going to be losing games. So I think that's a good recipe for disaster there. I have them dead last, obviously. Orlando, I think they'll get a little bit better with some continuity. Banchero will continue to develop, but I don't really see them winning many games. Detroit, I think, will be fun to watch. But I still think they're another year or two away. I think they're the OKC, slowly becoming the OKC of the East in a way. A lot of young talent that they just need to get some continuity and some consistency together.
Ironically enough, their GM came from Oklahoma City. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I didn't actually.
Yeah,
there you go. I mean, it just seems like they're building for the long term rather than just trying to hit a home run. Charlotte, I mean, they bring back their old coach. The Bridges loss is big for them. I don't care how you spin it. And then we'll see how Ball continues his trajectory and growth. But I just don't think they're good enough or disciplined enough. I think as one of the bottom 5 teams in the East, that this Charlotte team could beat anyone on any given night. I think this is the thing with them. I think they could go out and beat Golden State and then lose to Indiana the next night. I think they're going to be inconsistent, and they're young and dumb, right? So I just don't think they're going to have, when the games count, they have to be disciplined and knuckle down and be, not making silly passes and playing that free flowing style. I think that's where they'll be hurt. And then Washington, I kind of had them in, had them out. They had a great run. Was that second month into the season? They were top 4 for a bit in the East, and they just completely shut the bed. I don't think they'll be horrible. I think they're going to be competitive, but I think the East is too deep. You could, someone could argue instead of New York maybe, but I think health is the key for them. They've got a bunch of guys that just can't stay healthy on that team. Like Porzingis and Beal are the 2 stars of that team, and they're not healthy. They're never healthy. So if your 2 best players aren't healthy, you got to struggle to win games. So that's why I have them in the 5. You got anything else on those 5 teams, or should we move on?
No, we'll move on, Bogues. We'll get into it later. So we're good.
Yep. All right, Philly. Let's start with Philly. So they're my number 1. I think they're deeper. They moved Thibault to the bench. They've got a much deeper roster than they've had the last couple of seasons, with the fact James Harden is going to be their guy on the perimeter. Maxi's coming into his own. Embiid. I like that. I think they've got a pretty well-balanced roster. I think Doc's a great regular season coach. I think that's the other reason why. I think he's pretty good at racking up wins in the regular season and the playoffs. There's people that question how he is, but I don't think you can question, his coaching in the regular season. I mean, with the Clippers, they won a boatload of games. I mean, he does a pretty good job in the regular season. So that's kind of my mindset with it. I think that like I said, their starting lineup of Harden, Maxey, Tobias Harris, PJ Tucker, Joel Embiid, that's a fantastic lineup. I think PJ brings a role-playing guy that doesn't need the ball, which they needed in that lineup. I think Tobias is going to be the interesting one to see how he goes, because he's not going to get the rock as much as he used to. Especially considering he was playing next to another star in Ben Simmons, who was happy to pass as much as he could. You've now got James, who's going to be taking the bulk of the perimeter shots. Maxi's really good in the open floor. And then Embiid's going to want his touches. So I think Harris is the old man out. I'd look to his numbers going down as far as production. But if he buys into a good role, I think he can be valuable for him. They got Niang House Jr. off the bench. Reed had a decent season last year, just started to get a little bit better. Thibault, Montrezl Harrell, everyone's forgetting about, and Milton, I think, can be a real good scoring punch off the bench for him. Korkmaz is in there as well, so I think they're pretty deep, they're pretty well balanced, and I just think they're going to come out motivated and try to get to that final. So I think they're going to really try to win some games in the regular season pro. So that's why I have them as my 1. What are your thoughts?
No, Bogues. I mean, look, Embiid's arguably one of the best players in the league, and you get him, you put him with Harden. Like you said, Maxi's much better. Harris will have to sort of, figure it out. If they could stay healthy, for sure. If Harden could stay healthy and Embiid could stay healthy and Tucker being at 37, they got a nice little bench of Montrezl Harrell and, Thibault and House and Yang and Melton. Wow. I love Doc as a coach as far as being able to challenge his guys and put him in roles and things. Hopefully Harden could stay in really good shape. I mean, look, it's anybody's ball game, in the East for sure. And it's going to be a pretty cool, I think it's going to be a pretty cool race between Milwaukee, Boston, and Philly. I do. I think, they all have firepower. They all have great players. They all have good coaches. So it'll be an interesting deal.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's why I had them at 1. I just think they've been together probably that at least the core of their group has been together for the most part. Got 4 or 5 guys that play together. So I think they'll be fun to watch, and looking forward to seeing how that goes. Where'd you have Philly? You had them at 3 or 4?
I have 3. Yeah, I had Boston at 2 and Philly at 3. But look, they got Harden for the whole year now. So last year with the whole Simmons thing, maybe they do. They're definitely going to challenge for up there. So it'll be cool. It'll be cool to watch.
I got Brooklyn at 2. I think they're really deep as well and talented, as we know. I think we spoke about it in the offseason. I'd really love to see their small ball lineup. I think they can really create kind of a death lineup with Simmons at the 5, KD at the 4, and then you can have a mix of guard lineups, whether it be Kyrie Harris, Royce O'Neal, Kyrie Harris, Mills. You might be a bit small, but it's a lot of shooting. It then I guess doesn't make Ben Simmons' glaring weakness a weakness anymore if you put him at the 5, especially as a playmaker. Creates cross matches. You've all of a sudden got a 5-man having to locate Ben Simmons in transition. And you got KD at the 4 as well, which will be a mismatch. So I think they've got numerous lineups they can go to. I hope they try some different things. I mean, they also have Claxton. I mean, their projected starting lineup, at least in the preseason, was Kyrie, Ben Simmons, Joe Harris, Claxton, and Kevin Durant. So I think they'll start big. Generally, teams like to start big, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see Claxton out of there early in games and then they go to a more small, robust lineup. Obviously, Patty Mills off the bench. They still got Thomas. They got Joza. They're not super deep this season off the bench, in my opinion. I mean, Patty's getting older and a few other guys are getting older on that roster, but I think they'll be healthy. The distraction of the Ben thing is gone. Look, I still think Ben is going to have to, get through those demons in the regular season, especially when it comes playoff time with the shooting woes and the free throws. But I think in the regular season they'll be pretty good, and I think they'll be more motivated to come and actually get home court in the playoffs. I think the last couple of seasons with COVID and all that kind of stuff, I feel like teams didn't really overly emphasize home court, but you see how important it is in the playoffs. I think even though we see things like Dallas punching Phoenix, on their home floor, that's my reason for Brooklyn at 2, bro.
Bogues, look, the star power they have with the Irving Durant, Simmons, and then they have a bunch of other players. Like you said, they can go small ball if they want. There's a lot of options here. You can go a lot of different ways with this team. Now you just got to stay healthy. Durant's going to have high usage. Joe Harris is coming off injury. Kyrie, if they could stay healthy and everything goes, and the Simmons fiasco stuff just sort of quiets down and he just sort of settles into any role. Any role. I don't care, go-to guy, point guard, 5-man, whatever role that he has, just let it be drama-free. Let him play 72 games, 75 games, and then, they have a chance for sure. They have firepower. They have defense. They've got a lot of things going for them. They got a good bench, a lot of vets on their bench. So, yeah, I could definitely see them making a run for sure.
Does Ben Simmons play at Philly first time they go there?
Bogues, if it walks like a duck and sounds like a duck, I don't even know if I fucking got that right. But give me
Are you just hungry?
I think I am hungry. Give me an example of when he stepped up since he got to LSU to the NBA. Give me 3 or 4 examples of how he stepped up when real true adversity hit through NBA, college, national team, must-win games. I hope he does it. I do. I never wish bad things on any player. It's just, you're asking questions and you just got to make a call on things. And I just go back to his past and be has the guys, ever when the going gets tough, has he ever really stepped up like that? And he hasn't. And maybe he does. Maybe, I don't know. But, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a fire alarm pulled or, a bomb threat or something like that, God forbid. But,
it's November 22nd for those following, so we'll see. I hope he does it because it's a demon he needs to he needs to get through and just get over that, go there, get the win, flip the bird at the Philly fans, make them even more angry and get out of there. I mean, that's the only way you can really get through all that. So it'd be interesting to see if he does attend that trip. Where'd you have Brooklyn?
I had Brooklyn at 5 and probably a little low.
Wow.
Yeah, I had him a little low, to be honest. But, I do really believe in Boston because of their talent. Philly's obviously really good. Maybe the monkey wrench is Miami. I'm always a Miami fan, as we know. But, I do like Miami. They never have enough firepower to really, to go deep and win anything. But I do think that they'll be good in the regular season. They play hard. They defend. They've got shooting. They got good role players. But Brooklyn, again, Irving, Simmons, you got a lot of drama and shit there. So you never know what's going to happen. But, maybe I'm wrong on it. Hopefully I am. But, yeah, I have them at 5.
We'll see. All right, I got Milwaukee at 3. I can't bet against Giannis. I think if they can get healthy. I mean, Lopez was hurt last season for most of the season, just never looked right. Joe Ingles is an X factor for them. I think if he comes back healthy by February, provides that perimeter kind of playmaking that he like him and Giannis in a pick and roll would be great. I mean, he's a very, very good passer. And obviously feet set 40+% 3-point shooter. So they need him back healthy. But, the projected starters, Drew Holiday, Lopez, Giannis, obviously they've had Portis in the starting lineup with Lopez, which I found interesting. I guess because Portis can shoot the 3 ball somewhat and they're a bit more comfortable with Giannis handling it on the perimeter now and shooting a few threes, and then Lopez can shoot the 3. And the other one was Grayson Allen's still in the mix. Obviously Middleton's out, so he will replace probably Portis in that lineup, I would say.
How long is Middleton out for, Bo?
I don't know if they're just kind of easing him back, but off the knee. But I haven't seen reports of when he'll be ready. But I assume he'll be back. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks. But it's the preseason, so you can't gauge it. I mean, there's no point playing him right now. Their bench is some solid veterans in Ibaka and Hill. Pat Connaughton's still there, obviously. And Jordan Nwara's, I think, taken a little bit of a leap. He's got
Ingles.
He's gotten a little bit. Yeah, and Ingles off the bench. So they've got a good balanced roster. They've got most of their championship influential pieces back and healthy. So, and I just can't bet against Giannis. Like over the course of 82 games, he's tough to play against. He's given his all and he plays at 110%. So I have them at 3, Pro. Where'd you have them?
I had them at 1. I mean, I love how they play together. Giannis is, phenomenal. They play well together. They play hard. The biggest thing here is Middleton staying healthy. If Middleton stays healthy, they got a legitimate chance. If he doesn't stay healthy, they just don't have enough firepower coming off that bench. They've got good players. Like George Hill can make a shot. Pat Connaughton can make a shot, give you some toughness. Wes Matthews is hot or cold. Bobby Portis is sort of like that. The guy that just sort of the X factor, right? And then, Ibaka, if he can stay healthy. But Ingles coming off an injury, but they just need that firepower coming off the bench, and they got to stay healthy like any other team. I think they're really good. I think they do a great job. They play together. They play hard. That this group has been together for a while. And I think last year they obviously got screwed with Middleton getting hurt. I think they would have beat Boston and got to the finals. But it's like every other team, man. You just gotta have a little bit of luck coming into the playoffs with staying healthy.
Yeah, agree. They will be tough though, and they play really well at home, and you can't count them out. And as what Bo said, I mean, the top 4 I think in the East is just hard. It's a Rubik's cube. You can change all these positions, and it's become so deep considering where it was 10 years ago, which is interesting. Boston, I've got Boston at 4. You've got them at 1. I'm still not sold on their bench. I know they got Brogdon. I think the coaching distraction, from what I understand, very good coach and the players love him. But we usually hear that about assistant coaches all around the NBA, and especially during the honeymoon period, right? Once they become a head coach, things change. Tatum starting lineup with Horford, Brown. They're starting White right now. He came off the bench from last season. And then Marcus Smart. It's a pretty decent lineup to start with. I mean, Horford's age is probably a bit of an issue. Their bench, they've still got Williams, they've got Noah Vonleh, They've got Brogdon obviously off the bench, and then they've just signed Blake Griffin. Will probably be the main guys in their rotation. Do you know much about this Hauser guy?
Yeah, could really shoot. White kid could really, really shoot. I think he had a really good game. I think he had a 20-plus game.
Yeah, that's from 20. He had 22 points. Yeah, 5-8 from three.
He was a development deal from. He's a development deal from their D League team, and he just sort of stuck around and could really. He always went to Virginia. Could really shoot. Got good size. Knows how to play. Just yeah. I mean, I don't know how much time. That's the thing. Like, I do agree with you. I worry about the bench, and I really worry about their health, especially in the in the sort of the size department. Horford, you don't know with age, although I played the age card with him last year and he kicked the shit out of me. Robert Williams' injury, history, and he's going to start late. Gallo's out for the year. Probably Cornette. If Luke Cornette's
well, that's the problem.
Yeah,
they're big bodies. If Horford, God forbid, does get hurt because he's getting older, Williams, historically gets hurt every season. He's somewhat becoming chronic with knee problems. Your backup is Blake Griffin. And I think he can provide a great role for him, but you don't want to be playing Blake Griffin more than 25, 30. So I would look to them looking at getting another big in probably around deadline or before, even before maybe, because they just need some insurance there. The rest of their lineup's pretty good, but their bench is questionable. And I think you're in the East, like you're probably going to run into Embiid, right? There's no one on that. I mean, Horford, yeah, to an extent, smart, high IQ, but you're going to need 2 or 3 big bodies to throw at Embiid if you face them in the playoffs, because he's going to get one of you guys in foul trouble and all of that. So it'd be interesting to see what they do there.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you start seeing or hearing Dwight Howard's name sort of being, like probably by January, like being sort of circulated around. Look, he's a knucklehead, but he's big and he's a lob threat. He plays defense. He's actually been decent coming off the bench and not as crazy as he usually is. But, I think like Blake's good, but he's a banger and he plays hard and all that. Obviously, he's not really going to give you all that much offense, but like he's a tough vet. He knows how to play smart, but they need a little bit more size and length, in my opinion, all coming off the bench, and even starting, because you don't know how you're going to go there. But the reason why I like Boston, regardless of the coach or, regardless of anything else that's going on, you got Tatum and Brown, and you got Smart, who's like they're Draymond Green, right? They're a tough guy. They're equalizer, and they play together. They play hard, but you never know. I think that bench, like you said, does scare me a little bit. Even if you got Brogdon, White, and Williams, after that, it gets a little dicey. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I've got Miami at 5 and just out. I mean, you could have them in easily. I think they'll be consistent and steady as always. I don't know. I think they haven't really gotten better in the off season personnel wise. In my opinion, they've kept their own guys. They got Hero. They re-signed him on that big deal we spoke about last week. Kyle Lowry, Adebayo, Jimmy Butler. So bench Duncan Robinson. Does he find his way back into the rotation? Who knows? Does he start making some shots? They've got Jovic. They've got Big Haslam's back for another year. Strauss. So, similar roster to what they've had. I'm not sure. I think they'll be competitive and they'll be good. The East is just so hard. I couldn't put them in there. And I'll probably regret it because they are the Spurs of the East.
Would you have them at 5?
5, yeah.
That's not that
just
bad.
had them out.
Yeah, that's not bad. It's not like you had them at 8 or anything. Yeah.
But look, I have concerns about their offense still. Like, they do dry up. They go through spells where we saw it in the playoffs where they'll have a 60-point game sometimes, and they're just not as consistent offensively. Defensively, they're pretty solid. They're going to play hard. But I feel like they're missing something. I feel like they're missing another scoring burst on that roster to give them a legitimate chance to be back to the conference finals or the finals.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just the offensive part. Even when they made the finals, remember that? Like, Butler just couldn't. Yeah, like Butler just couldn't. Like, he just couldn't do. He's not that type of a player. He's a tough guy. You could put him. You could carry on his back for a while. but like he just wasn't that type of guy. No disrespect to him, but he can only take you so far. And then after that, you have all these spot up players. You don't really have now. Hero is a rookie at that point. He's gotten a little bit better, obviously, averaging 20 a game. He could really score, but I think that they're going to be good in the regular season. They could probably win a series, but I think as you get deeper into this thing and you don't have the offense, it reminds me a little bit of that Chicago team when they had D Rose and they had they had D Rose and Joakim Noah and all these other guys, but they didn't have another guy that could score. And Rose just was really good, but he wasn't that. They just I think they played LeBron in Miami in the conference finals. And he just swallowed him up. And it's the same thing here. Who are you going to go to? Kyle Lowry's not that type of player anymore. He's a good player. Max Strauss, could spot up and play, and Robinson can spot up. Adebayo, he can handle the ball in transition and post you up. But, Hero's that guy coming off the bench to score. But I just don't think they have that guy right now that could truly just carry it and score in, 4 different ways, So
yeah, you're 4, right?
What's up?
Are you a 4?
I had them at 4, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, Cleveland is my 6. I think traditionally should be higher with the roster they've put together, but my thing is who do they beat above them in a playoff series? Probably, it's just so deep. But obviously bringing in Donovan Mitchell is the big one for them. I think they have a pretty good roster now, a pretty fair chance to shake up the East a little bit and maybe make some noise if they get a run on. So Donovan at the 1, LeVert at the 2. They got Garland in there as well, who's playing the 1 as well, combo 1 with Donovan. Jared Allen, Kevin Love. They signed Wade to a contract extension at a decent number. Obviously, Mobley's still coming into that starting lineup, which will probably be for one of those guys, probably LeVert. And they'll bring LeVert off the bench, which I think is a better role for him anyway. Lopez Twins on there as a backup, and they got a few other guys who are fighting for minutes and spots. But their starting 5, at least their top 7, is a pretty good rotation. So I think they'll be in the mix in the East, at least competitive. I think they'll be better than they were last season.
Yeah, I like it, Bogues. They go big with Allen and Mobley, and they got obviously the backcourt could score with Mitchell and Garland. I worry about them a little bit defensively on the wing. Coro is decent, but Mitchell's really not a defender. Garland, in my opinion, really isn't great at that either. But I mean, you got Allen who could clean it up, pretty well. They could rebound and score. With Mobley's, could give you a lot. Their bench is decent. I do, JB Bickerstaff does a great job coaching. He's been around forever, and they got a good group. They got a lot of energy here, and I think they have a chance to be pretty good. Like you said, though, they're good, but I mean, I can't really see them beating out Brooklyn, Miami, Philly, Boston, Milwaukee. I mean, I think they could beat out the teams below them, obviously, but I just can't see them being good enough to really sort of elevate to get by the other teams. But, we'll see.
You have them lower, right?
No, I think I have them same. I have them 6.
6. Okay,
yeah.
Great. Toronto, I've got them at 7. I think they're going to cause some problems. They're like that. Nurse goes to some funky lineups. He even starts games with funky lineups. He started the preseason, which they probably will start with a starting 5 of Siakam, Anunoby, Barnes, Van Vliet, and Trent Jr. So they're all kind of, besides Van Vliet, they're all 6'6 plus, long wingspans, guard multiple positions. They're going to switch everything. They're going to junk it up. They're going to beat some teams doing that, and that's why I've got them probably higher than people think, and I've got them above a few other teams just based on that. I think they're just going to cause some issues. Getting into Toronto is a pain in the ass as it is, with road trips and getting in late and going through customs. So they've got a bit of a home court. They're all shooters in that lineup. Every one of them can knock down a 3. Every one of them can put it on the floor. Every one of them can guard anyone on the floor. Bar maybe Van Vliet guarding a 4-5 man, but they'll be happy to switch to that because he's a gritty, grindy, fighting type of guard. So I'm interested to see how they go. I think they'll be fun to watch. I think they'll cause some problems for some teams. And I think, I'm comfortable with them at the 7, Pro.
Yeah, the starting 5, I mean, they could do some things for sure. They got shooting. They've got, they got players that can ISO a little bit. and they've got talent. I worry about their bench a little bit. They got Otto Porter and Boucher and, Precious. I really like the big kid coming off the bench, Precious Achua.
Yeah,
big kid.
Who's with Miami, right?
Yeah, I really liked him. I think he runs, he plays well. But I just don't know if they have a lot of firepower coming off the bench, like Josh Jackson, Malachi Flynn, guys like that. But, I'm sorry, they got Thad Young too. I forgot about him. But they're good. I think you got them in a good spot. I think they're solid. They're well coached. They play hard. They're starting five. They could stay healthy. They don't have to go too deep into their bench. I think they're going to be solid. I think they could definitely beat some teams. They'll be good at home for that obvious reason. It's a pain in the fucking balls to get there. But I do like the team. I do like it. They just got to upgrade the bench a little bit in time through the draft or whatever. But I do think they have some talent. I think they'll go, they'll be pretty good. I don't see them winning a series, but I could see them punching you in the mouth in game one though, on the road and then having to deal with them. But I don't think they could beat anybody in a series, but they're going to be tough. They're going to be fun.
Yeah, I agree. Where you got them?
I've got them at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
8. So we're close. All right. I got Atlanta at 8. I assume you got Atlanta at 7 then. Yep. I think they'll be in the mix. I think Murray makes them better. Does that take the ball out of Trae Young's hands? We know Trae's a volume shooter, likes it in his hands a lot. Interesting to see how they play together. Murray has some shit to him too. So we'll just see how that goes. But Murray, Young, Collins, Hunter, and Capellas so far is their starting lineup, at least in the preseason. It's a very good starting five. But yeah, their bench. They've got the Holiday brothers. Kaminsky's on the bench. Okongwu was actually kind of good for him last season in spurts when he Okongwu he backed up. I'm pretty sure he played some 4-5 spots when Capella got hurt. He was decent for him, like solid young guy. But yeah, I don't know. I think their ceiling's kind of where it is. I think Murray gives them a little bit of a burst. I think maybe last season Murray would have helped a lot more, but because the East is just getting deeper and deeper, I just have them. I think 7, 8, 9 is a good spot for them anywhere around there, and I have them at 8.
Yeah, I mean they've got the Murray trade. Obviously, was interesting. Putting him with Trae Young. Now you got 2 ball handlers and. You have two players that could really score and really push the tempo. Not a huge DeJounte Murray fan. I thought he put up numbers on a bad team. I don't think he's like a bad player or anything, but I do think he'll make them better offensively. And I just don't think they have enough. Like you got those two. I like DeAndre Hunter as like that off the ball wing player. John Collins is good. It's good when he's like the 4th or 5th option on the floor. And, he could do some things on the perimeter and rolling hard to the rim and lobs and stuff. Capella's sort of been their anchor defensively. I just don't think I'm not a huge fan of their bench. I mean, Bogdanovich is good. That's obvious. But the Holiday boys are decent. And I'm not Okongwu is good, but I just think that they're going to be a good team. But I don't know if they're going to punch you in the mouth and win a series and get to the conference finals they did a couple years ago. But I think that the Murray Young will be fun to watch, and they'll be a decent team.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they're winning a series in the playoffs, but considering where they were, a season odd ago, a couple of seasons ago at least, they definitely overachieved that season. So I just don't see them doing that again. 9, I've got Chicago. Solid. Look, I think they're at their ceiling, man. Last season, they played so well and then just fell off a little bit, and then they were looking like they're going to, potentially go deeper than they did. But I think ball is a huge out for them. Like they're especially defensively. We all know what he does with the ball. One of the best passers in the league. One of the best pure kind of point guards, old school pure point guards. But I think defensively he's really big. So that then brings Caruso in the lineup earlier than you'd like. He potentially could start. I mean, in the preseason, Dosunmu, Levine, Vucevic, DeRozan, and Williams was their starting 5. They've got one of the Giannis brothers off the bench. They got Green off the bench. I think that's Jeff Green, right?
Javonte Green, actually.
Javonte Green, sorry.
Yep.
Andre Drummond off the bench.
Kobe White.
Decent. Yeah, Kobe White. So and Dragic is also there, and then you got Caruso to fit in. But I think they're going to be they'll be okay. Like they're not going to be horrific. I just feel like they are what they are. Like, and I think the ball out, it maybe loses them 5 extra games. But even with ball, I probably have them sit. Maybe they go up one spot and take over Atlanta. But I'm not sold on Chicago. I think they showed us that they can be really good and really bad last season, and I just think they're going to be what they are. They're going to be in the mix for a play-in at best, and maybe surprise someone and get through the play-in series, Pro.
Yeah, I had a lot of hope for them last year, and they just sort of didn't put it together. Like, I like their team on paper, but this ball knee thing is really, really weird. And you don't know where that's going to go. Look, LaVine could put up numbers. DeRozan could put up numbers. They don't really have rim protection in their lineup. I love Vucevic, just his ability to face up and score. I like Patrick Williams. He's solid. But, if Ball's going to be out, and then you got to bring either Dragic or Kobe White or Caruso, at your point guard spot, I just don't think you have enough. Like, I had them like in the 3rd or 4th spot last year. And I just can't do that this year just because they just don't have enough and the injury stuff. And I just, I don't trust the team, to be honest with you. But look, with a healthy ball, and you can put LaVine and DeRozan off the ball, and he can, he's one of the best passers. I think he's got one of the best vision. And, he has one of the best sort of like eyes for, making plays. Probably top 5 or 6 in the league at just doing that. But if he's going to be injury prone all year with this knee stuff, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I agree. I hope to see him healthy. He hasn't really had a fair shake at Chicago. He's been hurt on and off for a little while now, and hopefully he's back in the lineup. But I have them at 9. 10, I've got New York. I think the addition of Brunson should be enough for a playing game, Pro, at minimum. I think he'll definitely help him be better. But yeah, I mean, they are what they are as well. You got Brunson, Barrett, Fournier, Robinson, and Randall. Look, a decent lineup. Not a horrible lineup, but there's question marks around Randall still. He had that whole mental implosion all of last season, like going at his own fans in New York. We know that the Knicks, if there's one iota of a bad game or things not going right, they're going to start booing. It's a tough place to play as far as that goes. Obi Toppin off the bench. They got Hartelstein, Cam Reddish. A few other guys that are still working for minutes. Quickly's obviously still there, and D Rose apparently, from what vision I've seen, has lost a bunch of weight. So in really good shape for Thibodeau, and reports were that Thibodeau challenged him in the offseason to come back in better shape, that he was a little bit heavy. So similar team to last season, bar Barrett. Can they make some noise? I don't think so. They're battling for a playing game. You could, I had Washington, but then I was like, I think the addition of Brunson gets them in the 10 for me, Pro.
Yeah, trust me, Derrick Rose eating Twinkies before games ain't the fucking problem in New York. So I would chill the fuck out with that shit, to be honest. Look, they got a good team. They're okay. They got they might have the most lefties in the starting lineup in NBA history. They got 3 lefties. Barrett, Randall, and Brunson.
Fair point. That'd be a stat muse. Where you at? Let us know.
Yeah, hire me, motherfuckers. But look, I think Brunson's stable and solid. If everybody can get off what he's making and all that, look, he's a tough kid. He plays hard every night. He brings professionalism. It's a different type of media, though, that he's going to have to deal with that he didn't have to deal with in Dallas. He didn't have to deal with in Villanova. These guys go at your fucking throat. So it is a little different, but I like Brunson. I think he's going to be good with them. Fournier's got to stay healthy. Their bench is okay. Hopefully Toppin can make it, can make a sort of a jump. Hartelstein's solid. He's that tough kid bruiser. Not a big Cam Reddish fan. D Rose, obviously, he is who he is. Hopefully he's running on the track.
Quickly's not bad. Quickly's not bad for him.
Yeah, Quickly's good. They're okay. Don't get me wrong, but just like you look ahead, I have them at 11. I had actually Washington ahead of them. But, even Mitchell Robinson, like we don't talk about enough, like he's solid. He could probably give you like close to 10 and 10 and he could block shots. Not much of an offensive player, but like they'd be okay. I don't trust them offensively. Like who are you going to go to down the stretch is what I want to know. Like, is it going to be Brunson? Like, I don't think Brunson's that type. Like, I think Brunson plays well when he plays off of another.
Well, it's yet to be seen. We don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
and Barrett
doesn't have Luka anymore. I
Yeah.
think it'll be Barrett or Brunson, in my opinion. I think,
Yeah.
and Randall might get some of the scraps. But it felt like Fournier hit some big shots. He was their big. I mean, he didn't have a great year for him, but it felt like he hit some big shots for him last season, all season. It seemed like it was Fournier that was knocking, at least attempting to take the tough shot, you know. So we'll see. Give us your. We've done the bottom five, or I've done the bottom five, but we had a switch. So you give me your Washington preview as to why you have them over New York.
Sure. Look, folks, they were awful last year, but they had fucking injury. Like they had injury issues up the ass, right? I like it if Bradley Beal could stay healthy all year, Porzingis could stay healthy all year. That you bring in Will Barton, Kuzma. Kuzma's solid. Gives you 17 and 8. I really do like this starting five. Monty Morris is solid. I thought that, Hachimura, obviously Hachimura, Daniel Gafford. He's a good roller. Denny was it Avdija? Avdija, my fault.
Yeah.
He's solid. DeLon Wright's a sort of, good backup point guard for them. But I think if you can get Porzingis in the right headspace where, you get him the ball where he needs the ball, and you don't just have him jacking up fucking threes. You have him like facing up high post, posting them up a little bit, running them in transition, trails, things like that. I think you can get a lot of production out of him. Bradley Beal's always going to give you that 25 and 5. Will Barton's a good setup for them. I think it takes a lot of pressure. Johnny Davis, their rookie, will get a lot of minutes coming off the bench. I really liked watching him last year, in college. I just think they're a good team. I think they didn't really play together last year. I'm not really a big KCP fan. They got rid of him to Denver. I do think they're going to be good. I don't think they're going to be great or anything, but I do trust them a little bit more than New York. Like, they got two guys you could actually throw the ball to and definitively could score in Beal and Porzingis. And then the other guys.
And Kuzma. Yeah. Kuzma can score it too.
Kuzma's good too. So, like, I think I think they got really good players, and like their bench isn't great, but Hachimura, hopefully he's over the demons or whatever he was doing last year. Remember he had that mental health, health thing. Yep. Davis and Hachimura and Gafford playing well off the bench. They're a good team. I don't think they could do much like in playoff wise, but I think they're going to be a tough out because of the fact that you got, like I said, Beal and Porzingis and Kuzma, and they got a couple other guys who can put the ball in the hole. It'll be interesting. They'll be much better for sure. But although this French kid, they might have a lot of health and safety protocols.
The tank for Victor. Yeah, I mean, I had them in at 10 initially, so I hope I don't regret it. We'll see. That'll be a nice little battle we can have to see who gets that 10 spot out of those two. But that's the NBA wrap, really. I don't think we need to get too in-depth on those other four. We touched on them early on. They're not going to be very good. Detroit's probably the funnest to watch out of it. Maybe Charlotte as well. But if you're an Indiana Pacers fan, just take a bye year. Just don't buy a season ticket. Don't go. Maybe wait a couple of seasons. Maybe you get Victor, and then you can buy a season ticket again. But it's going to be ugly for you guys, I think. All right, moving on. Dabble. Betting meets social media. Great interaction app. On Dabble, you can follow your friends and mates, stalk the experts, trending tipsters. You can scroll through trending bets and copy them all in one tap. Whether you do a 10-stage multi, whatever you're doing, you can instant copy that to your account. You can jump on the chat forum there, banter. Talk shit with your mates, laugh at people when they get it wrong. So you can also go on there and follow me, Andrew Bogut, all one word, if you want to follow my tips once the NBA season starts. Some good, some bad. Go on, download the app, have a dabble socially, and remember to gamble responsibly. Moving on to the NBL Pro, Sydney Kings, as I said, we're 3-0. We beat big bad Melbourne United yesterday in what was a pretty ugly game for United. Nothing went right for them. Everything went right for us. Xavier Cooks, not sure if you saw the highlight pro, but I think he had he's got dunk of the year sewn up, I think, and no one's beaten that. That was tremendous, and he actually shot the ball real well from three. He had a really good night. But let's get to the Adelaide 36ers, pro. They stunned the Phoenix Suns over there in your part you're part of the US and got a lot of good pub around the world because you don't usually see an international team winning in those games.
Yeah, Bogues, it was unbelievable. Like, just
could have missed.
Could not miss. And, they just weren't getting out. Like, Phoenix just were, like, they took it. Look, we've all been there. Like, I think we played a team from China a couple of times when, my last year in Dallas. And you play a team like that, an international team, I don't give a fuck who you play. You're just going to take them lightly. And especially, it's not like you're playing Real Madrid, you're not playing Barcelona. You're playing playing a good, good NBL team. And they just took them a little lightly, and then they could not fucking miss. I mean, they need a 30 for 30 on that fucking game. I'll be honest with you. Like that, it was pretty cool to see. And we gave Wandale a bunch of shit, but it's interesting, man. They shot the shit out of it. They weren't afraid. That's the big thing. Like when you play against these teams, you got to play smart. You got to move the ball when you're playing against NBA players, and you got to fucking not be afraid. JJ Barea once told me that. He goes, look, as an NBA player, you need confidence. I don't care if you're 4 feet tall or 9 feet tall. You got to have fucking confidence. And that's what they had. They fucking played. They weren't intimidated, and they just played hard as fuck. And it was pretty cool. It was just interesting to watch, man. It was a good game.
Yeah, for those people that need to realize that first, second, third game of the preseason, this is an excuse, but the NBA players generally don't give a fuck about those games at all. Like, we're not going to get in the grind. We're not going to get back and forth. Oh, we're going to grind to win out. So the result isn't as important, but it's still a great job by the Sixers. You can't diminish what they did, and they could not miss, right? But there's also the other side of things where if it's a regular season game, I think we see a bit of a different story. But credit to Adelaide, they did a great job. And unfortunately for Adelaide, they ran into the buzzsaw of what an NBA schedule is like, because a night or two later they played OKC and got absolutely pummeled. So that's how brutal it is. And I think OKC came out, Josh Giddey was on that team. He played for the 36ers. He's probably telling the locker room, just don't lose this game. Let's not lose this game. I don't want to hear it from my old team, and they got absolutely pummeled by OKC. But it was great for the NBL, made news around the world. And yeah, even just rewatching the highlights of just how many threes they knocked down was crazy. And for anyone out there that wants a good NBA player, Randall, I think with the 36ers, sign him now so then we don't have to play him. So he's hopefully gone with his I think he's got an NBA buyout pro, so hopefully someone signs him and get him out of our league, get him away from the Sydney Kings having to guard him. So he was really good for him as well. Cairns Taipans have started well. They're undefeated as of now. Perth as well, undefeated. Southeast Melbourne looking a little bit shaky. There are a few injuries. The accountant pro, Brokoff, is still out injured. They've got the big Chinese kid coming back, Joe Chi. So it'll be interesting to see where Alan Williams, who is their import, whether he plays the same amount of minutes. So they're looking a little bit shaky. Tasmania got off to an 0-3 start. They played an 0-2 Brisbane yesterday, and Aaron Baines Brisbane, and Tassie got the win. So they're 1-3 now. Brisbane moved to 0-3. They have not won a game pro after the acquisition of Baines and Tyler Johnson and a few other guys. And unfortunately, the Sydney Kings get to play them on a Sunday in their home opener, and they're 0-3 pro. You got to love that, don't you? So we've got a tough outing because they come out very, very motivated. Melbourne United are 0-2 with a trip to Perth. So Perth is no easy beat over there in Perth, and United could easily go to 0-3. So very, very interesting start to the season. Still early pro. I mean, people forget the Kings were 3-5, 3-6. Only a season ago, and then got into some form and ended up winning a championship. And also the Sydney Kings have broken the official record of most road wins by a team in a row in NBL history, I believe. So congratulations to Sydney Kings. They continued on that streak from obviously last season into this season, and still have not lost a game on the road in a long, long time. So hopefully we can continue that in Brisbane on Sunday, pro. Useful or useless? I've got a good one this week, pro. You'll like this one. So a guy, Jock Landale, he was 4-0 versus the Adelaide 36ers when he played for Melbourne United, and he was 0-1 since he got to the NBA. Useful or useless? Oh,
it's useful as fuck. It's useful as fuck. I think our boy Landale, you got to, he takes the wife beater off and fucking gets a haircut and a little bit of a pay raise. Now the guy's fucking taking shit easy. So I think he's got to step the fuck up. He's got to stop. Hey, he's got to stop serenading fucking teammates on social media and get down to fucking business, man. I'm tired of seeing it. I'm fucking tired of seeing it. I lose my shit. Every time I fucking see it. It's got to stop. It's got to fucking stop.
It's got to stop.
Yeah.
Good old Jockster. I'd love it for it to be useful, but it is useless. But I did see it posted online, and Pro and I both gave Jockster some shit for making NBL history. And he wasn't too happy with us for a couple of days. But
too much Vegemite before the game, so you've got to cut that shit up.
Yeah, but he took it in stride. He said, "Man, I've heard it from everyone now. After you hear it from you two guys as well." And like, yeah, you did it. You played in the NBL, Jock, and you did a great job promoting the league and let the NBL team get a win. So we appreciate it. But that is useful as can be. Next one, Pro. Duncan Robinson had 29 points on 11 shots in one of their preseason games. He was 29 points, 7-11 from the field, 5 for 7 from 3. The reason why I brought this in, is it useful or useless to tell us that he's back in form and he's going to be in the rotation, or is it useless because it does not matter?
No, it's useless. I want to see him score. Instead of 29 points, I want him to see him play 29 minutes in a fucking playoff game. So fuck that shit. It's useless. No, it's useful. I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, 11 shots, 29 points. Trying to teach young players that you don't need to be, trying to get 29 on 25 shots. Guy was efficient. No, it's obviously pretty cool, but he's got to fucking step up a little bit.
So were you useful or useless? You said both.
I was bullshitting. I think it is. It is.
I think it's useless. I agree with you. You got to do it in a regular season game. They're paying you $90 million, so I think it's great as far as he's got his confidence back. But it is a preseason. There's not a whole lot of, it's a 80% intensity from a regular season. So you've got your legs under you. But I think it's useless until you do it in a regular season game.
I agree. Yeah, that's true. I'm fucking sitting on the fence on this one. I forgot it's a preseason, Bogues. My fucking head is mush. I forgot about it. Yeah, I say it's useless. Fuck that preseason shit. No one cares. Nobody gives a fuck. Like, nobody cares. Seriously, like, nobody fucking cares.
So a friend of mine is in Dubai right now, and they had that game between, was it Milwaukee and Atlanta, right? And he asked me a couple of weeks ago, he goes, "Oh, you think I should go?" I said, "Listen, man, like, no one's really going to play." I said, and I'm just going to give it to you. Preseason NBA players are going half-assed. The rotations, the coaches are making a mockery out of the rotations. They'll play their starters for the whole first quarter and they'll sit. I said, if you want to go just because you want to be part of it, and he's more of a basketball purist, so he wants to see good basketball. I said, and the tickets were like outrageously expensive, being in Dubai. So he decided not to go. And then after the game, he texts me and goes, his friends are all pissed because Giannis didn't play. I'm like, dude, I told you. And he's like, he was on all the billboards and everything. And they're saying and I'm just like, man, welcome to the NBA preseason. Like, they're not going to fly guys to Dubai that far and then play them 30 minutes. It's not going to happen. So to Pro's point, the preseason for the most part is a shit show. Usually the last game, it gets toned up. Like, at least in Golden State, would be like, all right, guys, like, we're doing our actual rotation tonight for our last preseason game of how we're going to do it in the game. So if you play 30, you're playing 30 tonight. And we're going to use that to kind of trampoline into the regular season. But, unfortunately, if you're an NBA fan and it's game 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the preseason, save your money and try to earn some interest and go to a regular season game. That's generally a much better decision, Pro.
Yeah, I mean, the only good thing about it, Bogues, is like, first of all, the attendance is pretty fucking brutal in the preseason, and you can get more access. Your tickets ain't going to be as expensive. Now, it's not going to be real NBA basketball, but if you're a fan and you're a little bit of a limited budget, preseason's the way to go. You could probably get closer to the action, autographs and all that stuff. But I'm not a big fan of I like watching the young players play that will either be cut or second round picks or whatever. That's cool, but it's not great basketball, and no one really gives a fuck. Players, veterans usually don't give a fuck about it. Maybe the last game, they try to get amped up for the, for the regular season. But like, yeah, it's not much of a product, to be honest with you.
Correct. All right, last one. Christian Wood in the preseason, 19.5 points, 7.5 rebounds, 60, 50, 100% splits, currently the second betting favorite to win Sixth Man of the Year. Useful or useless, bro?
Useless. I don't trust anything that Christian Wood does, to be honest with you, when the season hasn't even started yet. I think it's pretty useless. It's preseason. Hey, look, it's cool to see. Don't get me wrong. If we're going to go off on Duncan Robinson about that shit, Christian Wood, same thing. He's got to do it all year. He's got to do it in coming off the bench role. He's got to deal with the ups and downs of the NBA with an actually winning team. My opinion, he hasn't really done that yet in his career. I'd like to see it more. So I think it's pretty useless, in my opinion. As far as now, are you talking about currently the second betting favorite for Sixth Man of the Year, or the whole thing, the stats and all that stuff as well? What do you mean? The useful, useless? Is it are we emphasizing?
Oh yeah, no. Are those numbers useless? Are they useful to you? Do you think they're useful?
They're useless. He's a good NBA. Like, he puts up NBA numbers, right? Throughout his career. He put up that in the preseason. It's only fucking preseason basketball. I think it's pretty useless, to be honest. It's pretty cool stat lines, don't get me wrong. It's pretty cool to do and good, but I think it's pretty useless to do in the preseason with a guy who's already done it. If it's like your undrafted guy, if it's your undrafted guy, you didn't have a lot of hopes for him, and he's averaging 19.5 and 7.5 and all those splits and all that, I'll be like, that's pretty useful. That's pretty cool. That's good for him. But a guy who's already done it, it's preseason, I'm going to say useless, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think it's useless. I think it's preseason. They're good numbers. Hopefully he has some confidence going into that. But yeah, it's the preseason. So for me, all three of our stats were useless this week. And for those wondering, the favorite, the favorite is for Sixth Man of the Year, Pro?
I do not. Wandale?
He has a black eye right now.
Wandale, from us.
No. Jordan Poole doesn't have a black eye. He has a sore chin. But he's the favorite for Sixth Man of the Year. So they must not be starting him.
maybe Draymond bet on somebody else and he wanted to knock him out early.
There you go. Maybe he's on the Christian Wood train. He's the second favorite. So, fact or fake news? What you got?
The Golden State Warriors will give either or both Draymond and Jordan Poole an extension before the season starts. Fact or fake news?
Well, Jordan Poole's restricted, right? So this is the thing. There's no real rush for them to do that, is there? I mean, they still have the matching rights in the off season, and someone's going to throw money at him. So maybe they think, maybe we can get a 5% discount now. We'll do it. I just don't know. I haven't really followed too much of the numbers. You said by the time the season starts, so that's a week away. Fake news. Yeah, Draymond definitely not. Draymond's not getting an extension. I don't think he is. I think he has a player option for next season. He'll play this season out, and then they can either, if they were to re-sign him, they extend off that player option, or be interesting to see if they don't extend what Draymond does with that option, whether he opts out and goes somewhere else, or whether he realizes the grass isn't always greener. But I don't think either of them will get an extension before the 17th of October. Pro
Jordan Poole will be a Golden State Warrior past his contract. Meaning, they won't trade him, they won't sign and trade him, they won't let him leave, they're going to extend him. In your opinion, they extend him not before the season. Next year, he's going to be a Golden State Warrior next year.
Okay.
Now they got $1 bajillion they got to pay in luxury tax because of all the contracts they've got with Draymond's. They got Draymond's player option if he opts into it. Then you've got obviously Steph and Clay and Wiggins' deal. So they're paying. I don't know the exact number, but they're paying a ton of money. So Jordan Poole will be a Golden State Warrior past this contract.
Yeah, fact. I just don't think they're who you're going to get. That he's young, man, and they know Steph's getting older, Clay's getting older. Clay's coming off two really bad injuries. Draymond's getting older. The other question is, the extension guys are, it's Jordan Poole, Draymond, and Wiggins are the ones that are up in the next year or so. So, you're not going to keep all three of them. So there's an odd man out. You might not even be able to keep two of them, because I think keeping two of them still bumps you pretty heavily over the tax. So they've got some decisions to make, but I think I think number one priority for them is Jordan Poole. I think for the longevity of your franchise, you don't want to see him walk and then go and do what he's doing for another club and help them, right? So I think they'll bite that bullet. They know they'll probably have to eat it in the tax for a year or two, depending on what happens long term with Steph and Clay. But that's a risk they have to take, and I think they'll do it. So, fact.
Yeah, Bogues. I think I say fact. He'll be there. Look, like, this is a monumental run for any organization of what they've been doing and been able to do the last, 6 or 7 years, right? Like, I know you talk about luxury tax and all this, and everybody like hoots and hollers. And I don't know the financial ramifications of signing everybody, but I think they're going to keep everybody together as long as they can. I think he will be. I don't care what they're going to pay for fucking luxury tax. I think they'll be like, fuck it. Like, once this thing's done, it's done. Like it's never really pretty once you go past. Like, look, Draymond's getting older. Steph is getting a little older. Not that he's shown any signs of decline, but like, I think you just keep the band together as much as you can, and you've got all these other pieces that you could re-sign, that could help you. I think it's hard to, when you're that far over the cap, to let a guy go and what you're going to get back and all that stuff. I think you just keep him and just keep the band together. I think it's fact. I think he'll be there.
Yep, agree.
Fact or fake news? Last one, Bogues. Ben Simmons will be an all-star within the next 3 years.
Well, that's a good one. Within the next 3 years. So, yeah. Oh, wow. Look, I think his numbers aren't horrible. It's going to depend on, he's going to be the third pick from that team. If they're really successful, having a really good year pre-All-Star, it's obviously gone KD, Kyrie. They're going to have to be a 1 seed or a 2 seed for him to get that third spot, right? You'd think. So, and then he's competing in the forward spot with, Giannis and who else in the forward spot out there? Or Bam, Adebayo. So maybe, but I think they have to be a prerequisite. As of now, I would say fake news, but I think for him to be an all-star, the asterisks I put in, that they have to be 1 or 2 seed pre-all-star break. So as a whole, I'd say fake news, but I think if they're really successful, he'll be that third pick from the team. Just because there's three all-stars in that team, right? It's much harder to get 3 from one team, and it rarely happens. Like Golden State have done it a few times. Atlanta had that 1 year where their whole starting 5 made it, but they're rare occurrences, and you're competing against some pretty big names in the East. Yeah,
I say fake news. I mean, 3 years. I mean, look, anything could happen in the next 3 years. But with Donovan Mitchell back, in the East, and if he's obviously staying for a while. Harden's still going to be at a high level. You never know. It's a shit show of like the reserves when they vote him in. But I think fake news. It's hard to be a fucking all-star, especially when you're not the focal point. Now, anything could happen with that team. If those two guys jet after a year or whatever, and now he's stuck holding the ball, maybe with the numbers he puts up, whatever they have around him team-wise, he can do that. But that's a big gamble still. I say fake news, but yeah, we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. Wishing the best. Hopefully he has a great season. Hopefully Brooklyn can play well and be my number 2 seed, and I get on my picks right, bro, so I can give you more shit. But other than that, we will see how it goes. Thanks for joining us this week's episode. Hopefully you enjoyed. Next week we'll do the Western Conference and obviously chat more basketball, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks, bro.
All right. Thanks, folks. See you guys next week.
Let's get Rogue.